My name is Tami. My family and I serve as missionaries in Peru. I wanted to share with you some reflections I had from this week's Gospel in John and thinking about the promises that God gives to us. One being the promise to send us someone. And naturally we think his son, Jesus, of course, he sends us his son. But he also sends us other people. And our Gospel this week starts chapter 1 verse 6 by saying, a man named John was sent from God, and he's baptizing people, and the priests are wondering what this is all about, and they ask him specifically, are you Elijah? In verse 21, and he says, I am not. But I have to chuckle because of course we know in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 11 verse 14, Jesus says, and if you are willing to accept it, he, John, is Elijah, the one who is to come. And then again in his transfiguration, he mentions John the Baptist. This is chapter 17, verse 12. He says, I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him. And then in this week's Gospel, John says the same thing about Jesus. In verse 26, John says, I baptize with water, but there is one among you whom you do not recognize, the one who is coming after me. And so I'm thinking about how God promises to send us someone, but they may not obviously be recognizable. So one obvious example that I was thinking about was the Eucharist, and how Jesus comes to us truly in his body, blood, soul, and divinity. But without eyes of faith, who can recognize that? It looks like bread and wine, you know? And even a lot of Catholics don't believe that that truly is Jesus, because he's not recognizable in a way that they would expect. And then I started to think about my own life and how the Lord has come to visit me and I didn't recognize it at first. One example in particular was shortly before we joined missions with Family Missions Company, my husband got a call from one of his cousins who had been in prison for a number of years, and he had gotten out several months prior, and he reached out to my husband and talked about how he was really struggling and needed help to leave the lifestyle that he had always lived, leave the place that he had always lived, and start a new life. And so my husband approached me and said, you know, I got this call from my cousin. I think we need to invite him to live with us. And that was a really hard thing to pray about, but there was so much peace about it. So we invited him to come and stay with us, and he showed up with his girlfriend. And they ended up living with us for a few months. And right away when they came, they were telling us about some things that they had experienced and things that they had seen that they knew it was evil, and it scared them. And they needed to get away from that area. And they came to our house hungry for the gospel and hungry to know Jesus and to turn their life around. They were in the midst of a conversion. And we brought them to Mass with us every week. They went with us the very first week after they came to our house. And his girlfriend had a very profound experience at Mass. Encountering Jesus moved to tears. And so we journeyed with them for a few months, and it was difficult. But I recognize now that that was Jesus coming to my home as a stranger. I didn't know these people. And likewise, it's reciprocal. We were Christ to them. And especially our children, who just looked at them with innocent eyes and didn't look at them as people who lived a rough life, or looked at them thinking and judging or anything that sometimes they would be looked at in a particular way. Our kids just loved them as the people they were, and they welcomed them into our family as if they had always been our family. And I was struck by that, how Jesus was coming to us and we could be Jesus to them, even though it wasn't like very recognizable. It wasn't something that was obvious. It was just these people who lived a rough life and came to live with us. But I know that was Jesus. And then when we came to missions, one thing that I was really surprised about was how profound it was going to be for me to visit the poor in their homes. So behind me is an example of what some people live in. These are homes behind me. Other people live in mud homes with dirt floors, and they really do not have many comforts that we're used to having. And I was surprised that when I visited people in their homes, I felt like I was visiting Christ himself, and that I was visiting Christ's own home. I wasn't expecting that. And certainly looking at their homes and looking at the people around here, they're just ordinary people. And to me, I recognize that they are Jesus to me, and I get to encounter Jesus and hold his hand and talk to him through the people here. It has been an amazing and incredible experience. And so I guess my encouragement for you this week is to think about the hidden Jesus, and to think about the ways that God is sending you someone, but they may not be recognizable as the Lord himself. God bless you.